So I'm going to start with the job situation in the state. Some of my colleagues tell me that, Liz, you need to be positive. And I said, I am positive. I love life. I'm alive. I'm awake. But I'm not going to stand up here and say everything is great. You know, so I will get to some great things, but I want to start with what we all know is the big problem here in the state. So we'll start with jobs, go on to related to jobs, unemployment insurance, mortgage foreclosures, the Chesapeake Bay and environmental issues, energy and efficiency issues, education, and these are not in order of priority, obviously. Education would be at the top if that were the case, but these are other areas that are, really very touchy right now. Campaign finance, how's my numbering going here? And open government. So that's 8 of them. It's very clear from not only every poll, but anyone who's out in the public listening to the people speak, that jobs is what's the main thing on people's minds. And we are losing jobs, and we're losing them big time. So the governor and the leaders of the legislature have some programs to create additional jobs. One is in the form of the governor's tax credit for businesses that would hire an employee who's now on from the unemployed rolls, And I think this can definitely be a positive, and it's certainly not going to solve the situation. For anyone who's looking for a quick fix to this economic situation, I think we're going to be it's sorely disappointed. It took us a long time to get here. It took us a long time of letting financial institutions go virtually unregulated. It took a long time of giving mortgages to people to whom it was very clear, you don't have to be an economic whiz to know that they couldn't pay those mortgages. Now, back over the years, here with the coverage I've gotten in the press, and this would be particularly the Business Monthly, a guy named Len Nazarick, who used to write for the Business Monthly, described me as the legislator the bankers love to hate. Well, I didn't know if I'd ever live to be proud of that description. And, the time has come. The time has come, but pride isn't going to do anything either to help get us out of here. So we can do things to create more jobs, but it's not going to be a fix-all. It's going to take time. So the tax credit is one thing, but another thing is to look at what other kinds of jobs can we create. The business that's really hurting now, possibly the most in terms of jobs, is the construction industry. And that's tough, and that's not good. That is not good news. There's very little work for the construction industry people to do. So little by little, we'll build that up. So there are more construction jobs. But in the meantime, and this is a bill also that the governor and the leaders of the legislature have in. By the leaders, I mean the Speaker and the President, Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, that if we were to really get serious about cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay, really serious, watching what we do to the Little Patuxent River here in Howard County, and then how that affects the Patuxent River, and how that ultimately affects the Bay, and do what we can do in restructuring our watershed, our Little Patuxent watershed, and our Patuxent watershed, then there would be all kinds of jobs that would be created that would be called green jobs. And the governor has a bill in, and the leadership is supporting it, and so am I and many other legislators, that's called a Chesapeake Conservation Corps, that we would train people to know how to go down to downtown Columbia, where, and it's through no fault of anyone around today, but if one thing we do know is that when Columbia was developed, if there was an environmentally known sound way to do it, Jim Rouse did it. And nevertheless, all of those acres of asphalt around the mall When rain comes, all of the runoff goes under through a big conduit under Little Patuxent Parkway and dumped into Lake Kittamaqundi, then dumped into the Little Patuxent, then dumped into the Patuxent, and then dumped into the bay. There was a bill a couple of years ago to give what were called 2010 trust fund grants to communities that had the potential to develop a really model, restructured, I don't know what word to say, redesigned watershed plan. And the Howard County, the Little Patuxent area, I was a sponsor of the bill that created this program, and I wrote a letter supporting this. The county government, the Columbia Association, and General Growth Properties combined in a request for a grant, and they received the largest grant in the state. So that is there and ready to go if we have the will for those three entities to work together and clean up that watershed. So, and that can be multiplied in many, many, many places throughout the state with a different kind of job. So that doesn't mean that we don't want to get the construction industry back up and running, but it means that we don't have to just sit here and say we've lost jobs, we're in trouble, we're in trouble, we're in trouble, until that does resurrect itself or with help do that. So that's the job scene as I see it. And that's probably the longest time I'll take on any issue. Unemployment insurance. There have been some small business people coming in and talking with Ed Casemeyer and me, and they are really hurting. And they are hurting because there are so many people who are, unemployed, and they have to pay the insurance. The federal government has recently come up with a new formula for how to handle this, which if Ed Casemeyer were here, he could explain to you. I don't know how to explain it, but we're working at the state to try to get some flexibility with this federal formula so that our small business people are not stuck with such a difficult problem with uninsurance. Okay, now what are we up to? Mortgage foreclosures. This is the issue that most prompted me to say, I'm positive. I love life. I want things to be good. But the delegation met with the Howard County Realtors a few months ago, and they asked me to be the first one up to speak, which was fine. And I deal, the committee that I'm on deals with mortgage foreclosure issues. And I told the group 3 months ago, and I can say, unfortunately, the same thing here tonight. The mortgage foreclosure crisis has not yet peaked in Maryland. I'm not saying it's not yet close to a resolution. It has not yet peaked in Maryland. And so that is a huge problem at many levels. First, before I get to the economic scale, it's the human scale. These are, people being put out of their homes. I drive around West Columbia. Do you ever? And see furniture out on the street for people who are being put out. So we are working on ways to require that there be more negotiation with these people who are not able to meet their mortgages. Yes, they bear some of the responsibility for it. There's no way that the mortgagee can't bear some of the responsibility. But they were also given loans, many of them, that it was very clear they could not meet. So what we're working on is requiring that there be some mediation in the process. We're hearing from many, many people who tell us that although they got many, many calls soliciting them to sign up for a mortgage, now that they're being notified that they're about to be foreclosed upon, they can get no one on the phone to talk about a possible way to work something out. So that's a thing on the mortgage foreclosures. Glasses back on. Moving into the what you could call the environmental area.